Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Monday. I know it's a little probably hard for some folks to come back into air conditioning after that, all the nice weather. So I'm calling to order the Monday, August 11th Planning, Energy, and Environmental Quality Committee. So thanks. We have all the members here in person, and we have some department folks and some guests. So what we'll do first is I'll just see if there's any public comment. I don't think so, though, right? Is there? No? Okay. And does anybody want to propose any changes to the agenda, or is it okay as it is? Okay. And next we'll go right to minutes approval. These are the minutes from our July 14th meeting. Would anybody like to put that on the floor? Greg, and then seconded by Rich. Any edits, proposed edits, changes, additions? Okay, so why don't we go ahead and everybody in favor of the minutes as written in the packet? Okay, that's unanimous, so that passes. And for the chair's report, we already rescheduled the September meeting and I'll have Taylor, right, is the September we rescheduled already, but so Taylor's gonna tell us that date in a second, what that got rescheduled to. But we wanted to also reschedule, we had another issue with the October meeting due to some conflicts with the county being closed for Indigenous Peoples Day and Columbus Day. So I talked to all the members, and it looks like October 14th, so it's the next day from our regular meeting. So if you could just make note of that in your schedule. So it'll be October 14th at 1 p.m. It'll be on a Tuesday versus a Monday. And I hope that works for the departments as well. Okay. And moving, did you find that September?
September 5th. So
the September peak meeting got changed to September 5th at 1 o'clock, correct? Yep. So, and that was on a Friday, I think that one was, and I know only 3 members will be able to come to that. I think it's myself, Rich, and Veronica. And Greg and Amanda already said they have a conflict with that date. Okay, thanks everybody. Any issues with those dates from members or anybody else? All right, great. And thanks, Taylor, for helping us rearrange those and bringing those to my attention. Now, let's see if we have anybody we have Bridget Nugent here. Bridget, do you have anything as far as any reports from county administration?
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi.
No report today from county admin.
Great, thank you. And then we're trucking right along, so we're a little ahead of schedule. And so we're going to go to, just to let folks know, I don't know if we have some folks here from NYSEG if you see the agenda, but we have the Department of Recycling Materials Management, and then we'll go on to report discussion from you folks. So we have Leo and Kat here today from Department of Recycling Materials Management. And any overall report, or do you want to get into the commodity revenue report?
Yeah, I think we can get right into the commodity report.
Okay, thank you. And that's on packet page 8, and thanks for giving us the data with the graph.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It will definitely help us in the long run. I think just supplying some updates with the revenues from the sale of materials, the better you understand it, the better I think the conversations will go with budgeting and the outlook for 2026. So updates here are through June. If you're looking at the line graph, you can see that things haven't bounced back. Keeping in mind, we have a budget number of $95 a ton in 2025. And things aren't getting any better. Again, I think when we've spoke in the past on this update, we were really anticipating upward trend. January, February, March, even April. It came down a little bit, but, not huge. May is down, June is down. We just got July's number, maybe Friday or Thursday, and that's even worse. I think it was $45 a ton. So we're down a little bit more. And if you look at the chart, again, that just kind of compares where we've been since 2021, how things compare.
And that's packet page 9 for folks looking in the agenda, the chart. Go ahead, Leo.
Yeah, so I guess the point maybe that we'll make today, if you look at 2025, where we've got a projection of $62, that projection was made year-to-date through June. I want to point out, when we build our budget for 2026, that's informed on actuals through April. So when we put our budget together, it was anticipated, we were projecting $77 a ton for this year, 2025. June, we put that number together when we met with administration on our discussions with the 2026 budget, projecting an even lower number, that's 62 through June. After we took a look and put our projections together through July, our new projection would be $59 coming in at the end of the year. So
it's the average for the whole year.
That would be projecting out the year,
The average
averaging out.
Average, okay.
Yep. So that's kind of the bleak number. But with that said, we project these things out every month. And we're just constantly looking at our expenses. I know we spoke earlier in the year on where we negotiated some savings with Casella on contract extension. So even though it's bleak in 2025, it's not as bad as it's going to appear with some of those savings that we recognized for 2025. 2026 budgeting will be challenging, or maintaining our 2026 budget will be challenging. So, did I leave anything out, Kat, with that ACR? Anybody got any questions?
I think you covered it.
Yeah.
Thank you for keeping us updated. Any questions? Rich?
Amanda was first.
Oh, Amanda, sorry about that. Then
well,
Rich?
Just, yeah, it's bleak.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Sorry to hear that. So you've already put together your budget for next year.
We have.
But when that final, it's still, 2 months before the legislature will vote on that. I mean, I should know this from past years, but you can still kind of adjust it. Or do you feel like, because we'll have more information at that time within the next couple months, but.
Yeah, I mean, things could change with a couple months, but again, when we sit here through 7 months of actual, not a lot of months left, but our discussions with some of the industry professionals, our folks that are marketing our material, I believe our last conversation was they're expecting it to stay flat through the end of the year. But it's, crystal ball, roll the dice with it. Yeah. No, I think, we're prepared to move our 2026 budget forward as at least with our discussion with administration.
Okay.
And for folks outside of the county, just to let them know, if they don't already, that you're an enterprise unit, so you have is it an enterprise unit? Is that what you're called? But you have an
enterprise fund.
Fund,
Yep.
So you have a separate budget.
Correct.
From other departments.
Yep.
So, Rich?
Yeah, it looks like it's a fool's errand to try to really predict this, but you have to try for budgetary purposes. I'm curious, this is a composite. The different commodities are fluctuating at different prices all the time, so you're trying to put them together.
Mm-hmm.
Is there one commodity that's wilder than the others?
Your plastics are usually driven with fuel prices.
Okay.
So, but again, pretty unpredictable. Your fiber markets usually go up and down together. So whether sorted office paper, corrugated cardboard, mixed paper, they tend to kind of follow each other. And cardboard, beginning of the year, I want to say maybe $80 or $85 a ton. For cardboard, I think July was 75, so it's down, but not down, drastically. Yeah.
Is there any price for glass, or is that?
No, glass from a revenue standpoint hurts us. Glass is what we refer to as a negative revenue commodity. That goes against the average. So, the glass that is in our recycling stream gets sorted out at the processing center, and then that is used as beneficial use, most commonly for landfill cover, the glasses. Again, negative revenue, I want to say upwards around $40 a ton, negative 40. So that lowers our ACR.
Okay.
And, we do have another sort at our facility where residents or businesses can drop off clean glass, source separated, and then that's marketed or sold at zero to TAMRA, where the deposit glass containers all go, and that glass is made into new bottles. So that's truly being recycled.
That's really helpful. I have one more.
Yeah.
Could I ask? It seems like you would benefit from a reserve fund here where you could smooth this budget line year to year. It's a really terrible year to ask us this fall, but have you thought about trying to do that so that you're not beholden to these wild swings?
That's a really good point. As far as reserve funds go, we kind of got away from those in 2020. We'd never had one for this ACR or for revenue, but we have had them in the past for like equipment. And we kind of got away from that just because we really couldn't budget to put it into a reserve. We've opened that discussion back up with administration with our last meeting. And yeah, you're onto something. I think, if we were to take a look at the norm, if you will, for a revenue per ton and budget that year after year after year and see how that works out with an over and under. So to your point, if we have excess revenue, it would go into that reserve strictly to be used.
Any shortfalls the next year?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. It's a good point, and yeah, it's on our radar.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I know it's difficult with your department because you have many years out contracts and then negotiating or figuring out the fees, the yearly fees too, for residential or commercial. When is the last projected increase or the last time, because that affects your revenue of whether it's residential or commercial? When's the last, or when will that be renegotiated or reconfigured?
Well, the facility contract was just extended. It was a 5+5.
Right.
So the first 5 years would have took us through February of 2026. So that contract will expire February of 2031.
And then for the fees for residential and commercial, because I know those have been raised over the series of years. I can't remember when
Yep.
that could be re-looked at.
Yeah, so fees are proposed or determined every year in the budget, in the upcoming budget.
Okay, so that could be every year.
There will be some material increase in fees, in tipping fee, and the annual fee is proposed every year.
Okay, because I know at one point we looked at the yearly fees over the course of like 3 years to try and catch up.
Every year, we're looking at what a material might cost us.
Okay.
And what we charge, if we charge at the scale for any particular material.
Thank you. And I don't know if we talked about it before in this committee, just as a side note, when I was looking at your site a while ago, the recycling, there was 2 items that you're not recycling anymore. So one was aseptic containers, and I believe the other one was things that were plastic that were black.
Yep.
Is that correct? So don't
Yes.
put those, so before we could recycle those, so now those are garbage, unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah, unfortunately. I know Kat's pretty well versed in that. She might not want me looking at her on this subject. It's always tough when we have acceptable materials, and we've been accepting them. We successfully recycling those materials, and then with conversations quite often. But we publish the recycling guidelines every year. They're changed. They're usually changed with the collection dates and the calendars updated. But in conversations with Casella on marketing, we wanted information if there was any issues with any materials being marketed. And it surfaced where it was difficult, if not impossible, to find markets for those materials.
Yeah, I think that was noted in April or something like that. So
Yes.
this was mid-year, which
Yep.
is a little different, right?
Yeah, so, we're challenged with the question, do we continue to take a material like that in hopes that it gets marketed and recycled, or, we're always going to be transparent and say those aren't being recycled. We don't want to mislead the public on if we're accepting, a material that's being recycled or appears to be recycled when it's not. That's a challenge for us. I don't know if you want to add anything, Kat, but.
Yeah, I'll just add that, it is challenging. I think people are used to being able to recycle these materials. And I know personally, as a resident in Tompkins County, it's a bummer not to be able to. But I think some of the things that we're also recommending is just thinking about, our purchasing habits. This kind of gets into our rethinking waste, our 4th R, and thinking about, are we bringing a container for our to-go material? Because a lot of times those are black plastic that you're getting. So could we reduce that by bringing our own container to put our leftovers in? Or thinking about kind of that bring your own container, thinking about what we're buying. Or are we able to, substitute out a product for something that comes in a recyclable container, or better yet, a refillable container? I'm always very excited when I can buy products in containers that I can bring back and just use over and over again. So I think those are some of the things that we're looking to highlight and help support the community with as well, because we recognize, we don't want to put more in the trash. We understand that, they're not in the recycling anymore. So how can we support folks in really reducing waste and continuing to move the needle?
Thank you. Any questions on that? Veronica?
I really appreciate your efforts at transparency with the public about not that you would tell someone something's recyclable when it's not, but like not letting us believe that things are recyclable when they're not, because I think a lot of people tend toward the optimistic recycling. Well, hopefully it'll get recycled.
Yeah.
Pretend recycling, they call it.
Oh, yeah.
Wishful recycling.
Wishful recycling, yeah. When there is a change to the guidelines, like Annie mentioned, how, either like this particular change or in general, how does that end up affecting average commodity revenue? Or, average commodity revenue or the total revenue? Because I could see it going both ways, if that's predictable.
Yeah, the volumes of those two materials would be fairly incidental to it moving the needle one way or another. But with that said, I believe both of those materials would be on the lower end of value, I believe. So if it was to affect it, it would probably affect it in a positive way as far as commodity revenue, but incidental because of volume. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And so you have a resolution ready to go to that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so there's a resolution on packet page 10, and then there's an accompanying memo, easy for me to say, memo on packet page 11. So the resolution on page 10 is budget adjustment, Department of Recycling and Materials Management, transferring paper bag reduction fee revenue. Could someone move that? Moved by Amanda, seconded by Veronica. Would you like to tell us a little bit about this?
Sure. So the New York State Bag Waste Reduction Act, paired with the local law number 6 of 2019, allowed or established the nickel fee for paper carryout bags. A component of that comes back to the county for the purpose of purchasing and distributing reusable bags with priority given to low and fixed income communities. And so this is revenue that's been coming to the department for a couple years now. We thought we would see the amount of money being collected year over year going down as people bring more bags and really start to adjust to that nickel fee. But what we've been seeing is that it's actually kind of held steady. It grew a little bit and then held steady. And we think some of that came from some of the changes with COVID, where now there's new options for getting grocery delivery, even the curbside pickup. A lot of those, if you think about them, come in paper bags that a resident may or may not be choosing. It's just part of their delivery component. So instead of seeing that money go down, we've really seen that held steady. The other component to this is that this comes in with the sales tax and it gets put into a special account where that funding comes out of. And so there's always a lag in the fourth quarter where, that money's coming in, but then we need to make adjustments to get caught back up. So we do have some funds that have been put into the fund balance. We are looking to move them over so that they can be utilized for the purpose that they were earmarked for. And I think the other piece to note is that we also have been looking into options, because up until now they've been used purely by the bags, but we have gotten clarification from the DEC that that can be used for advertising, kind of promoting the program, as well as some staffing and educational efforts, which we think will kind of help support the program even further as well.
Yes, can I just ask on that part there? I saw that in the memo. So in the resolution, the second to last whereas, where it says for the purpose of purchasing and distributing reusable bags. So that covers those activities that you just said and the staff? Does that sound clear enough?
Yes, I believe it does. That's the language that comes out of the law. And when we ask for clarification, purchasing and distribution,
that's covered
time
under
and all of that.
Okay,
kind of
so that's great. You have more flexibility with those funds to cover some other things like staffing and mileage. Anything else before we open it up to questions?
Did I miss anything?
Don't think so.
Okay, who's Greg and then Amanda and then Rich?
So I'm a little confused. Who's remitting, or where's the money coming from? Are the stores remitting a portion of that 5 cents? what's the mechanism for that? What stores are supposed to be remitting on the sales recs return? Does it give you that option to remit if you're supposed to? I'm just a little confused where these monies come from, and then I have follow-up.
Sure, so my understanding is the store is collecting it at the point of sale when the bags are being purchased. Then that goes in with the sales tax that ends up at the state, and then that funding comes back to the county, to the finance department, the portion that's allocated to the county on a quarterly basis. And then that gets put to our department.
Like a couple pennies.
Yes, it's a couple pennies on the nickel, or yeah.
2
on
or
the
3
nickel.
cents?
There's only 5 pennies in a nickel, so.
Well, the finance
Three,
department
3.5
isn't here, so we're projecting, yeah.
Well, Veronica's a math major. So.
Oh, that's true.
I went to
Or
Cornell.
more.
It's either 2 or 3 cents, and I
Right.
forget off the top of my head which one of those two it is.
That we
And
get
so are
them.
these only specific stores that need to report the usage of paper bags?
Yes, it's the stores that are covered under the law.
Okay, like grocery,
Or plastic,
Grocery store would be
Or-
an example.
paper or plastic, right?
There's some exemptions, restaurants with takeout food. I think some of your farm markets, there's some exemptions, but it's a classification of store. But, you know, your big supermarkets, your Walmarts, to think that we probably receive around, on average, $40,000 a year from those 3 cents. And, you know, that's, like Kat said, it just surprises us for, you know, because we just think that that's going to work its way down. But the grocery delivery continues, and every
So
bag
are you
that
charged
you
on
get.
grocery delivery?
Pardon me?
The bags,
Yeah,
Charged
so.
for bags?
they have to.
Yeah, they have
If
to.
the gro- if
So.
the- Yeah, sorry.
And I brought this point up, we were talking about it the other day. If you've ever gotten a delivery from a large supermarket, the bags are small, and sometimes they might have 1 item in them. And
So they give you like
with
4.
what you might use with 2 reusable bags, you might get 5, 6, or 7 paper bags at 3 cents. And it's, again, hard to believe that 3 cents equates to $40,000 annually, but
And so we're supposed to then spend $40,000 annually distributing reusable bags?
not distributing, purchasing, and more or less marketing, if you will. So we have a person that reaches out to certain organizations because it's preferred that we distribute these bags to low income or organizations that work with low income folks. So there's some guidelines that we try to work with folks to get these things out. And so there's reaching out to folks, there's us tracking and being accountable for every one of those bags, so there's some administrative type costs there. And then we're actually delivering these things, so we're making arrangements with these organizations and getting bags out to them. So yeah, the bulk of that goes toward new bags. Actually, up until now, all of it goes toward new bags.
So this year, we will bring in $70,000 from reserves, plus generate another $40,000 in revenue. So we'll be spending $110,000 on a reusable bag program for the same constituents as we have in previous years.
We recognize it's eye-opening, yes. Now, I guess shame on us, we should have been dealing with that 40,000 each year or 35 or whatever it was. But yeah, that's what has trickled into the fund balance over the last couple of years. And it's not just the full amount. We buy bags, I think we buy bags most every year, if not every year. But we have always been careful not to spend more than what we believe is coming in. And we don't usually know that until the end of the year. So, you know, typically maybe we would spend $15,000 or $20,000 in the middle part of the year, buy bags, not knowing what is actually coming in by the end of the year. We don't want to overspend and on bags. So I don't know if that made sense, but it caught us off guard too, because we anticipated or projected that revenue decreasing with bags. And it hasn't. If anything, it's increasing.
And the law only allows us to buy bags for this money.
No,
Or spend it on-
Packet page 11.
Yeah, or spend it on a staff person to administer a bag program or advertising for said bag program.
Education.
Seems like
Yes.
an awful lot of money
Yes.
that's really not doing the trick. Because if the money was getting us an ROI, that bag fee would be going down, but it's not. So maybe we look at our local law again, but it seems like if we're, and I don't know if this is a state law, that we can do anything about how we utilize the money, but it seems like a waste of money. I mean, this is like one of those good taxpayer programs that over time, it's still good to charge people to generate this money, but we're spending on it and it's not yielding an improvement in the result.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I think there's one or two things that we definitely can be looking into to kind of support some of that. You know, certainly in the past year or two, we've kind of tried to pair more education, bring your own bag, kind of more of those highlights. And I think having the clarification from the state about how we can use the funding, I think there's support there. And then the other piece is just thinking about, you know, is there an opportunity to pilot with some of these companies that are doing the curbside pickup more reuse, right? Is there a way that they can be promoting reuse so that they're not selling individual paper bags as much?
Yeah, I guess my only issue, if this resolution said for staff expenses to do that rather than program supplies, I would feel better about it. I struggle for, I'm assuming 64,000 program supplies are bags.
Largely, yes.
Do you want to propose an amendment to add clarifications, such as what's listed on page 11?
I'll stop talking for a moment.
Yeah, can I say something?
Amanda?
Yeah, so it is a state law. I spent the first 2.5 years of my time on this legislature working on plastic bags. And we have a local law only because it became a state law first. And one of the biggest concerns at the time was that, you know, everyone was up in arms that if you couldn't just get a free plastic bag at the grocery store, that low-income people weren't going to be able to buy groceries. So this was their way of compensating for that. And therefore, you know, even though so I totally get your points. And that is a lot of money. That is a lot of money to spend on bags. I think there is, you know, it's hard to imagine that there's that many low-income people who need to get like more bags, like that many bags.
Every year.
I was also just wondering about that 64,000, and I mean, yes, it could go to staff time and expense, but that's not really a precedent you want to set, that using this money for operating costs, because we don't really know, right? Like, you don't really know how much you're going to get in the future. I mean, it seems to be pretty steady after 5 years, but you don't know. So is the staff time part of that or not, I guess? Or should it be, or should it not? Am I making sense?
I'm not sure if this answers exactly what you're asking, but some of the funds will be allocated to staff time this year, now that we have the clarification. And I think looking ahead, you know, it takes staff time to manage this program, whether it's the procurement,
Right.
driving the bags around, or any of that. And so we appreciate the opportunity to be able to recoup some of that expense to support the program, while recognizing that also helps kind of make sure that it's being used for the intent, but maybe reducing the number of bags that are.
Right, okay.
Can I just add in
Yeah.
something? That I know you've come to us with, and you've gotten several or numerous other grants where it's reimbursement for staff to do certain things. So a lot of your efforts you might do, and you don't get reimbursement through grants or things, but you flex like that, or you go ahead and do it, and sometimes you can get reimbursement, and that helps lower your overhead costs. So maybe this is something in that same bucket where you're going to be doing these things. And if you have less money coming in from it, then there's less staff, you know. So maybe this is the type of thing, since now you have clarification, which is just recent, or what else you can use it for, to the points that Greg and other folks have made, maybe in a year to look at how is it going then, because we don't know with possible enhanced education, will there be a reduction then? Is that something we could look at in a year and see where you're thinking, where you're spending the money and how it's working then?
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a great point. We do not disagree with the fact that they're spending that amount of money on reusable bags year after year after year, and maybe more, depending on those nickels. But as we sit here today, the money that's in the fund balance that is earmarked for bags either need to be spent on bags, or like Cass said, going forward, we can utilize covering some of the costs for distributing those. Or the option is that money has to go back to state. I believe that's the way
Right.
that the law.
Right.
So, I mean, as we sit here with that 70,000, those are our options. And then going forward, yeah, I mean, there's no question. We'll look at what kind of options there are, you know, with that money, or just taking a step back and saying, you know, forget the bags, what else happens here? But yeah, it's, again, we expected, you know, 35, 40,000, you know, for the first few years, and then declining, and it hasn't done that.
So that's new data plus the information you got from the state.
Yeah.
So these are some of the things. Rich was next, and then Amanda.
I looked up the law. It's 40% of the 5 cents, so it's 2 pennies. And if we don't use it, it reverts to the state, the Environmental Protection Fund. And I have a reflex, don't give money back to the state. But if we're not going to use it in any productive way here, maybe this is one of those rare instances as taxpayers, we'd rather New York State get the money. Ouch. I'm wondering if there's something we should be doing as a legislature to ask New York State to amend their law to provide some more flexibility, because you guys certainly are doing, you know, God's work with recycling and everything else. Having more money to do it, you know, it's not a lot of money, but it's money, and we should be applying it efficiently. So, but tell us if you think we should do a resolution to ask New York State to consider amendment. Thanks.
Amanda,
Yeah.
and then we'll vote?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. You know, we have 5 years of data now for, you know, all that has been happening. So maybe feedback to the state is a good idea, saying, you know, it worked. So let's, you know, how else can we expand and use this money? So I was going to suggest that too. And then I guess my other suggestion was to maybe relook at the places that you're giving the bags to, and maybe let's expand that and, you know, bend the rules a little bit. So you know, I don't know all the places that you're doing, but maybe there's some additional to get them out to more people rather than just the same, folks over and over.
Yeah, I think the wording is preferred as far as,
Priority.
yeah.
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 So,
Yep.
so maybe, even just the various farmers markets, could have a stack that they could give out or, yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Real quick, Greg, and then we'll vote.
Yeah, procedurally, I'm going to vote against this, just so that it can be a larger discussion with the full legislature, because I think we need to raise it from an advocacy standpoint. I'd love to see $70,000 go into food insecurity and creating more equitable access for those lowest incomes that are struggling to get fresh foods, right, as opposed to how they carry it away from there. And I also think this could be a thing to look at a commodities reserve, right? As we see the revenues from recycling and the good work that we're doing there continue to go down, is this a way that could help backfill and offset those? So I think we need to be doing more at a state level, and I think we need to put pressure on Assembly Member Kellis and Senator Webb to do something about this, because just writing a check every year for reusable bags, I mean, the point is they're reusable, so you should be able to use them from year to year. So I'm going to vote no on this, not because I don't support reusable bags, not because I don't support the fee for the paper bags and the elimination of plastic and single-use plastics. I just think we need to have a larger discussion. And so that's going to be my vote today. My vote at the legislature may be different, but I do want to raise this point to the full legislature. And I know I can ask it to be removed from the consent agenda, but I would prefer to do it this way today.
Yep. Yeah, well, that's understood. Absolutely understood. Yeah.
Okay, let's take a vote. All those in favor? 4. All those opposed? 1.
Greg hates bags.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
Please,
you heard it
let's
here
not,
first,
Well,
folks.
that'll be
let's
in the
not talk
paper.
about plastic bags anymore.
All righty. Amanda?
I was just going to bring up another topic that some of us were on an email talking about the environmentally preferred procurement process. And that just very briefly, I've noticed that in the past, year that some departments have been providing single-use water bottles, which is against a resolution that the legislature passed several years ago. I brought this to Corsa's attention along with Kat and Leo and some other folks, and I am hoping that Annie will schedule a time for Kat and or Leo to talk with us a little bit more about that, kind of bring that back to the forefront of some people's minds. I think with so much staff turnover and, maybe people kind of forgetting that this is our policy not to purchase single-use water bottles and other single-use items. So I just wanted to mention that here today.
Yep.
And as I think I said in one of the emails, so I'll work on talking with Finance Department too, because I don't understand, what messaging. I think the messaging, anyway, figuring out where the messaging and comes from, and so who to have here. Would you recommend finance? I mean, or unless you could tell me really quickly, like how does that information get to the departments about our EPP, environmental procurement policy?
Procurement policy.
EPP,
Yes.
yeah.
So through the purchasing policy, EPP is actually embedded into the county's purchasing policy. And as a component of that, there is an EPP team that we meet monthly to go over topics related to this. We've also developed an annual report that at the time in which this discussion is held, we'd be happy to bring to committee to share kind of what in 2024 was last year, where the county stands from that. And
Okay.
we can also share more about kind of what we're looking ahead with. The team does consist representation from various county departments, including a member from purchasing
Okay.
as well.
And will that be in the next, when do you anticipate the next report?
I think if we could bring it forward in September, if that's amenable, the report is ready to share, so.
Okay, so then Yeah, why don't we do the discussion then?
Okay.
Okay, thanks
Terrific.
for bringing this up too. It's very,
Yeah,
it's
thank
just, yeah, it's hard for me too to go to events and we have a bunch of plastic water bottles, which isn't great to drink water out of plastic, that's been sitting in a plastic water bottle to begin with, but that's a whole other thing maybe. So anything else from your department?
Just one last thing I want to make mention, kind of as a heads up. So our department's required, I think every 3 years, at least under our new operating permit, to do waste characterization studies on the material that's coming into the facility. We've actually had arranged earlier in the year with Stony Brook University. So they're coming in the week of September 15th, and this is all being paid for through a grant, I believe, with the state DEC. So this one's going to be paid for by the state. They're coming in. They'll be sorting materials Tuesday through Friday morning. We'll get something out, but I felt as though we'll offer some viewing if anybody's interested, where they can come in and kind of view these sorts and understand a little bit of what might be the outcome of this waste characterization. So we're using this for a couple of different things, for benchmarking, food scrap, curbside collection pilot, but also on the heels of us working on updating our old, outdated solid waste laws, Chapter 140 specifically. And we hope this waste characterization is going to inform any recommendations or partially inform recommendations on any changes to updating those laws. So it may be kind of interesting to get that visual of what we're doing. Mm-hmm. So we'll send something out just as a reminder and how we might go about organizing some folks coming in to view it, if you have any interest in it.
Yeah, would folks like to be included, be invited? Sure, yeah, it looks like most of us would be, or all of us. And then you'll have a report and whenever that's ready that we could learn about too, that'd be great.
This is a list of what they'll sort into. I know you can't see it, but there's a lot of lines there.
Wow.
So very detailed, and and I figured you'd have some interest into it, so. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for coming today. And next we have the Department of Planning Sustainability. We have quite a few folks here, but we have also Katie and Haley over there, but Jerry, you're taking it away for us today, right?
I'm going to give the intro here and pass it on to NYSEG. So as many of you know, the county was involved in the last NYSEG rate case. Haley and myself were parties to the case. We followed the process. I think we made a few comments along the line. But for the most part, it was more of a learning experience to understand how the rate case works and what points the county could be impactful or be active if we so chose. Following that rate case, Haley gave a presentation to, I think, this committee, and there was support from the committee to be more involved, for the county to be more involved when the next rate case came around. So here we are, the next rate case has started.
Just a little snippet, what's a rate case, or is that going to be?
I think that'll be part of NYSEG's presentation. Okay. I'll let the experts give.
Thank you.
So myself, Haley, and Maury, who's joined us online, have all become parties to this case. This is what I think is the first step, is to help this committee become informed about the rate case. And so NYSEG is going to be presenting on some of the broad strokes of it. And then following that, it'd be good to get a little bit of a sounding on kind of where folks are at, what you're thinking. And then our intention is to come next month in September and maybe have a little bit more of a discussion, perhaps go into an executive session, which seems to be the mechanism that we'll be able to discuss negotiations, since negotiations are confidential, and really start to dig into what all of you would like the members of the county that are a party to this case to be advocating for on the county's behalf. So that's what we're looking at doing at this point. So I'll kick it over to NYSEG. They graciously, I've been working with Eric on a few different issues over the past year. He's been a great partner in all this, and they graciously offered to come and present on the rate case. So you wouldn't be hearing it from, indirectly from myself or Haley, but hearing it directly from the utility. So I'll pass it to Eric if you want to introduce the team there and take it away.
Thanks, Terry.
Okay, thanks, Terry, and thanks, Chairwoman Koreman, for inviting us and allowing us to come. Like Terry said, we've had some previous discussions, we've had some ongoing discussion. One of the things that we like to do is get out and present as much as we can one-on-one or directly. There's a lot of misinformation, we feel, in the media, on social media, so the opportunity to talk to you directly and give you information directly. And as I've told Terry, as this goes forward, keep that chain of communication open. I'm local. I work here out of the Ithaca office, so I'm just up on top of the hill. So I'm always available, for questions and comments, and most of you have gotten emails from me. I'm going to have contact information, so. I'm going to start a presentation, and then I'll introduce people just because they're on that, hopefully. Okay, so with me today, Tim Ellis, Vice President of State Government Relations. Tim came down from Albany. He's intimately familiar with the rate case. So while I can present some information, Tim is the one that can answer those questions directly. And again, I am Eric Purvis. I'm the Manager of Municipal and Community Relations here in the Ithaca Division. And sitting next to Tim is Lisa Rando. Lisa's our Regional Manager for Government, Community, and Business Relations. I'm looking at our title changes every week, it seems like, so trying to make sure we've got current titles. So I'm just going to do a couple of overview slides, and then we'll let Tim get into the rate case itself. If you're not familiar, NYSEG, 1.2 million customers across the state. This is just NYSEG. This does not include our sister company, RG&E. Nearly 50,000 miles of electrician transmission and distribution lines, 8,500 miles of natural gas lines. If you look at the map, the area covered in green is, I forget my own, electricity. Blue is our natural gas area, and orange is where we provide natural gas and electricity both. Getting a little bit more specific to the Ithaca Division, the Ithaca Division covers all of Tompkins County for natural gas and electric. It also covers portions of Seneca, Schuyler, Steuben, Chemung, Cortland for different various gas or electric. When we look at that, Ithaca, 953 square miles, so it's a little bit bigger than the county. 63,000, almost 64,000 customers, and over 32,000 gas customers. Electric system, we have 62 substations in the Ithaca Division. So when we start talking, when Tim starts talking about some of the infrastructure upgrades that we're looking to do with this rate case, 62 substations, 26 transmission lines. For those that aren't familiar with the electric grid, transmission lines are the higher voltage lines that go from substation to substation to bring electricity both in and out of the area. I point out of the area as well, because any of the solar that feeds into the system also has to go through those transmission lines. So as we talk about solar, that becomes important as we talk about the upgrades. 87 distribution circuits. The distribution circuits are the neighborhood level. When we have an outage and all your neighbors are out, typically you're on that same distribution circuit, which include over 2,100 circuit miles, 2,000 of which are overhead, 200 of which are underground miles, mostly in downtown Ithaca. Underground is not the answer to everybody's, angst over power outages like you think it is. It's not as great as people think it is. And also we have 606 miles in the Ithaca Division of natural gas distribution lines.
Excuse me.
Sure.
Sorry. I see you have 26 circuit miles, but I'm adding up the overhead and the underground, and it comes to, you have some in between?
Yes, I can hear you.
Is there another category?
There's not. I didn't realize that the numbers don't match.
Okay. Sorry.
My guess is it's a typo on our part, but yeah, no, those are the two categories, so.
We will absolutely look into that.
We'll get you an answer.
The four numbers going there. It's a lot of miles. I mean, I think NYSEG itself, I think you could go around the globe twice with our lines.
Yeah, and if I could just interject, if somebody has just like a quick clarification question, is that okay if they ask?
Yeah, absolutely.
Then, and we'll save the overall questions for the end? Okay,
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, please jump in. And we want this to be the start of an ongoing dialogue with, as you will learn, is a several month, if not over a year process that we are required to go through. And as Eric said, thank you. My name's Tim Ellis. I do state government relations and oversee the municipal and community and business relations departments, as well as economic development for NYSEG and RG&E. And since we did our required filings at June 30th, which kicked off the process, some of you may have participated in the briefings we had service territory wide. And then also we held one with New York State Association of Counties to kind of drill down, focus more on our electric capital investments that we're proposing. So we're really, making the effort to be out there and talking to anybody who will listen, really, and really trying to educate not only our elected stakeholders and other stakeholders, but our customers as well. We had a number of, community connection events in the Ithaca area this spring and the fall, and realize, some of the challenges customers faced with the winter heating season. And that's where, we kind of came up with this graphic here because we really want to zero in what, in a rate case, and I have the following slide, it probably could have gone before or after, breaks down what the rate case process is. The utility bill has so many pieces to it, supply, probably a dozen to, if not more, different charges on there. So we wanted to educate our customers on what exactly those different charges are going to. The simplest is supply and the delivery. The delivery is the revenue that goes to us to, do everything from pay our line workers. We call it transformers. The commission will approve our spending on transformers and toilet paper. Literally everything we spend customers' money on needs to be signed off by the Public Service Commission at the end of the day. The supply portion in the orange is what is a pass-through cost to our customers from the suppliers. We buy the supply on the open market, whether it's electricity or natural gas, and it's a direct pass-through. We are not allowed in New York State to make a profit from that supply. There's a number of government charges and taxes that are included on there, and then also authorized recovery mechanisms that are included on the bill. Those are designed to, if things get out of whack in the revenues we are expecting, because we have commitments to bondholders, investors also, to be able to continue that investment in the state, to kind of be able to regulate those. The best example, and probably most recent example, is the recovery charge that started on customers' bills in early February of this year, which was a way we reached an agreement with the state legislature and the governor to do some legislation to allow us to submit to the Public Service Commission a resolution to allow us to essentially sell off hundreds of millions of dollars, $700 million for NYSEG, debt to bondholders. The idea is that we would get a AAA rating on that and could get a much better interest rate into paying that debt off over the period of time that normally through the normal recovery period. I'm happy to report that charge will actually be cut in half starting as of August 1st. It means collections are going well, and at the end of the day, while it was a new charge on the bill, it actually will save customers about $100 million in the NYSEG service territory over the period. So that was, I think, an example of us being creative with how to get a challenging situation with the storm recovery costs, and that will be a part of the presentation. And a lot of that, having to resolve those issues, has to do with making sure the credit metrics of the company are in a good position to be able to borrow, essentially use customers' money to be able to buy more with that amount. We don't want to be buying less with the amount if we get a downgrade in our credit rating. So, Eric, if you want to go to the next slide. So just an overview of the rate case process. So pursuant to public service law on June 30th, we filed a one-year rate plan. So essentially it is, what would we need in that year if the rates were to go up just for that year period. The reason of the timing of it was that our rate year, last 3-year settlement agreement will expire in April of 26. So we just went through the last leg, if you call it, of the increase from that multi-year settlement. That's the numbers you're going to read in the paper because it is a 1-year. That is a 1-year filing, and we calculate the rates and what the impact on customers will be. But I want to be very clear that is the intention of both NYSEG and RG&E to reach a multi-year settlement, which historically has been about 3 years. But we actually, in this round, decided to submit data that would support a 5-year settlement. And that gives benefits to not only stretching out any increases over time for on customers' bills, but it allows us to do, much better long-term planning on capital. If you think about, DOT, other, capital-intensive organizations, it's pretty much all a 5-year capital plan, and they know where the funding is coming from. The county may have a 5-year capital plan, investment plan as well, and it also helps with the planning and then the supply chain issues we've seen since the pandemic. We believe it'll help us to be able to manage some of those. I mean, it is taking us 3 to 4 years to get transformers that are needed to do some of the capacity upgrades. So in June, late June, we kicked off what is at least an 11-month process. Our last rate process went about 16 months. And nothing happens to the rates upon filing. Nothing happens overnight. It is purely just a proposal. There's an administrative law judge who's assigned to oversee the proceeding, and DPS will have a multidisciplinary trial staff that will be sending information requests along with other parties to the case. Literally, we get these information requests. You have 10 days, not 10 business days, to turn around that information to the requesting parties. So it is an ongoing effort by our team to be responding to those. Again, an extensive discovery process and an opportunity for public input through Department of Public Service hearings. On the technical conference that was held a few weeks ago, there was discussion. Nothing has been scheduled yet, but we are looking at in-person hearings throughout the service territory. Potentially a virtual one, I believe they did mention maybe in August, but there may wait till after Labor Day. That is still yet to be worked out. But I expect a number of public opportunities for the public to weigh in their comments, and our elected stakeholders as well. Other parties, including such as Tompkins County, will become parties of the case. They tend to be environmental advocates, customer advocates, businesses, large businesses, and labor will also be interested in filing testimony and participating in the rate case process. And at the end of the day, what our hope is and our goal is to work with the Department of Public Service and staff and all the parties involved to hopefully reach an agreement that weighs the balance of the investments that need to be made in the grid and in our natural gas infrastructure in a way that it limits the impact to our customers, and it's a sustainable path forward. So going into the 1-year filing, that kind of kicks off the process, and just want to describe some of what we call the drivers. And I also want to note, in a little different form, on the Department of Public Service website, there are forms for each of the filings. It's actually 2 filings for NYSEG, gas and electric, but that breaks down, the proposed increase and the primary drivers behind each case. That is interesting and actually a pretty good, simple one-pager on what is being proposed, and they do this for all the state's utilities. So the first driver, we've kind of bucketed into three buckets. That is state policy. Now, we're not putting this here to argue with the merits of any of the policies or anything here. You know, that is our job is to put the facts on the table, what it costs to implement. And we also, when I get to the storm costs, you know, we're aware that things are changing and we're seeing more and more severe weather events, more frequent and more severe. And our costs to recover from those are reflective of that. So CLCPA, and this is particular for NYSEG, phase 1 is a main driver. That's about $40 million that makes up the total revenue requirement that we need for 1 year is about approximately 630 million. Make ready to support broadband expansion. Again, when I got off 88 on my way down here, I can tell you the cell service wasn't good. Trying to be on and off calls was not a good experience. So absolutely support the goal. But what's happened is, as we have pole attachers coming in, attaching to some poles that were never meant to have other attachments to it, those poles then need to be replaced. And there's was a unintended cost to things of that nature. There was legislation passed and signed by the governor just a year ago regarding call center staffing. NYSEG has about 200 NYSEG and RG&E, I should say, have about 200 call center reps per our rate case previous agreements, as that's our staffing level in the state that are NYSEG, RG&E employees. We also do and have for decades used out-of-state vendors. Out-of-state vendors, it comes down to cost. It's more cost effective for our customers to be able to handle the call volume. And it also allows us to flex when needed if we anticipate a storm, or maybe we're rolling out a new program such as AMI. It's getting hotter, so we can anticipate the bills are coming in. It allows them to flex quickly in a matter of days to have more staff on to be able to answer calls. The legislation required that utilities submit a notification, have a hearing, and then there'll be a determination by the Public Service Commission if you are sending calls out of state. They're still working out how that is going to work. There's actually been some legal challenges on the issue, but we really had no choice but to put the relevant FTEs into our rate case in case that there's determination to start tapering away from those vendors or bring them all in-house. So that was about 539 FTEs to make up what we would need to have the call center entirely in New York State. Roadway Excavation Act, prevailing wage. Again, we support prevailing wage, but this was on the gas side of our business. That it was kind of a mid-rate case change, so it did increase our operations on the gas side. And then there's customer support programs that are mandated by law, which we'll get into under the customer service programs.
Before you go on to the next one, I just want to, for CLCPA, that's the New York State Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act.
Correct.
Yeah. Just want to, if any acronyms, just to be transparent to everybody. Thanks.
Yeah, we try to unacronymize. I think there's some others in there.
Yeah, there's only a couple. Yeah, you guys did a good job. Thank you.
And that was, so those are the projects that are intended to help us meet the state's goals that were approved by the commission. CLCPA Phase 1 is included in base rates at the respective utilities. Phase 2, which NYSEG has a significant amount of work, probably $2.5 billion worth, NYSEG and RG&E, I should say, that was done on all customers, regardless of what utility basis. There'll be a surcharge once that's ready to start recovering. Correcting legacy issues was the second category, about $269 million. Including requirements to restore service in 72 hours. I can tell you that our guys love restoring after storms and want to get people on power as quickly as possible. But what has happened in the years since this requirement coming in, and it's a penalty on us, is you have all the utilities in the state that are, under the same demands. You also have all the utilities in neighboring states at this point. So when we and our service territory is such, as Eric showed, that if there's a weather event in upstate New York, we're mobilizing crews, we're getting hotel rooms, we're calling on contractors to be able to be ready to restore people. That means we have to pay a premium for those contractors because the market is such that it did increase the cost. Arrears recovery, unfortunately, we have continued to see an upward trajectory on people that unfortunately have not been paying their bills. We're about $100 million at both RG&E and NYSEG. More timely recovery of reclamation and danger tree expenses. We're catching up. We were the last utility in the state to not be on a 5-year trim cycle for vegetation management, which was a big piece of our last rate case. We thankfully got a 6-year trim cycle, but there's still some work to be done on that. And then CapEx to correct legacy underinvestment. What we've seen on the electric side particularly is a demand since 2022, our load studies, the number of load studies we received in our planning department have more than doubled across NYSEG and RG&E, which is a good thing. That means people want to come here, they want to invest here, they want to grow here. But it was really probably from 2010 to the early 2020s was really kind of stagnant growth on the demand side. And now that trajectory has really picked up. So the investments weren't really warranted at the time. And when you have a system as large as ours, it's a lot of catch up on that. And then to our base activity.
Pardon me, what are make-ready costs?
Make ready, so that is for broadband expansion. So,
okay.
So yeah, yep. And as I said, there's equipment that's required to go on our poles, and our poles, some of them are 60 years and older, may not have ever anticipated holding that equipment when they were a year old. So they need to be replaced, and there's a cost depending on the pole owner that associated with that. And then our base activity needs, which I'm going to go through in depth. So I think we can run through go to the next slide, Eric. So like I said, that makes up about $630 approximately $1 million annual revenue, what's called a revenue requirement. And the revenue requirement is what we need essentially to operate our business, meet all the mandates that just like us or any other business or anything that we're required to do, and essentially on the investments, pay the payment on the mortgage for those investments. And I'll get into that because I included, and apologize because 2 of these projects weren't in your packet, but they were approved in the last rate case, because one of them at least is going to come online during the length of this rate case, which means customers will start getting the recovery to start paying back our investors who put up the money for that during this rate case. So even projects that were approved in, let's say, the last 3-year rate case or the previous one could be kicking in as part of the revenue requirements here. So it's really the best kind of way is how much money annually do we need to meet all these requirements and our commitments. So the multi-year investment plan, I touched on this, but we are put forward 5 years. Historically, it has been 4, but we're hopeful, and actually with some much smaller Corning, we just saw that I think they approved a 4-year plan for them, and there was some conversation by the commissioners to push, suggest that there be a little longer outlook on this exercise. Better address legacy concerns. It'll really let us know how much we have to deal with the issues we have, and then we don't have to stop after 2 years and go back in and negotiate and kind of live in a state of flux. And then more comprehensive view of long-term investments. So starting with customer service, both RG&E and NYSEG, it's about just under $1 billion investment in customer service. $657 million at NYSEG specifically. That includes increasing energy affordability programs. The commission did just recently in the past few weeks take steps to essentially have a new class of or universe of the population that is eligible, anybody below the median income. So that will be part of that. 24/7 operations of our call center. Right now, if somebody after hours, which I believe is after 7 p.m., calls for an emergency, they are literally going to get one of our engineers at the Energy Control Center. This would, if we were able to do this, it would allow us to have those engineers focusing on their core responsibilities and get them to a more customer service related individual. And I'm sure there'll be some conversations because call answer times are such that it may end up providing expanded hours for day-to-day customer activities, but we think that's something that should be 24/7. We do have an ask in there to revise some of our customer service performance indicators. There's some that just are out of alignment with the other utilities in the state. For instance, ours, customer satisfaction for a customer who has recently called us, and unfortunately they don't normally call to say just thank you. But they will then receive a survey. It's 1 to 5, with I believe 1 being the best, 5 being the worst, 3 being neutral, and if you pick 3, it goes as a negative, which we don't believe is a good reflection. I think if you actually remove just the 3 entirely, we would have hit our metric, and that's fine. But we just think there should be more alignment across all the utilities in the state, or at least utilities in like service territories. So us, National Grid, Central Hudson, RG&E. Our customer care system, which is our billing system, works through a system called SAP, which is becoming obsolete. So we do need to update that. I know there are a number of counties that also use SAP, but that is a necessary upgrade that needs to happen because we will no longer be able to be supported by SAP. And then also increased funding to support our economic development programs, which we didn't in the last rate case, unfortunately. We did receive a hit in that, and that was a way that we were able to kind of help with some of the capacity constraints, and we've really felt that over the last number of years, because unfortunately, if we have no other assistance or ways, creative ways we can help, businesses, municipalities, grow. Unfortunately, if it's not in the envelope of what we've been approved to, per our tariff, the cost is then on the customer. And that's unfortunate. That can be in anywhere from a couple $100,000 to tens of millions of dollars. So that's something one way we want to get work for that challenge. Implement a comprehensive digital strategy for our customers. Customers don't want to call us. Some of them just want to go online, take care of their business. That's what I do. And we've started with some things, again, coming out of the winter billing issues we saw, and knowing that we are in the midst of summer cooling, we were able to roll out usage alerts that if customers their usage is higher, if they sign up, their usage is higher, they will get an alert on their phone, like you get an extreme weather advisory that says your usage is higher. Now maybe the AC is cranking, and maybe they should want to adjust it a few degrees to try to modify that. But those are the kind of things we want to be able to educate customers. And then modify our methodologies. I mentioned the arrears. That's what we've seen, the increase since prior to the pandemic in arrears, and those are really uncollectibles and methodologies of writing off that debt. All customers are paying with that debt, and we figured out that it's probably $10 to $15 annually that customers are paying on everybody's bill, unfortunately, for that situation. Jump to
Tim, before we start the next one, it's taking about 5 minutes per slide.
Okay.
So we're going to need to just speed it up so we can have, maybe by 20 of, just to make sure we have time for questions. From the.
Apologies.
Thank you.
Okay. Electric operations, it's really about the vegetation management and the storm costs. But there's remaining 5,900 miles across the service territory unreclaimed. I know from some information Eric put together for a meeting, community leaders meeting in May at least, in this division we've already done 260 miles this year of veg clearing, and that is the #1 cause of our outages, is down trees, and about 50% of overall. So that is key. It may seem routine, but that is a huge focus and was a huge win in the last rate case, and we want to continue that progress. And again, as I mentioned, the storm costs, that is what we've seen over the last few years, the increase in those costs. Gas and capital operations, really this is, I can sum it up, is really to focus on safety, leak-prone pipe replacement, and doing things like meter relocations outside. 40% of our meters are actually indoors, which make it difficult to read for those, especially those who do not choose to do AMI. But it is the core proactive leak detection that, look, while we're talking about gas, will ultimately, having tighter pipes will reduce greenhouse gas emissions and help the state reach its goals. There was a proposal in our recent management audit, another lovely thing that utilities get to go through, and there's all sorts of statements made, but they wanted us to invest another $1 billion to basically replace everything. We did not include that in there, but we have a very aggressive leak-prone program, and we're proud of the state our system is in. Okay, and the biggest piece comes down to the electric capital. It's about $10.9 billion, and upgrades, mitigating equipment failures, reducing customer outage exposures, addressing the capacity constraints that I've mentioned, and upgrades targeted, and we'll go through some directly in Tompkins County to reduce outages in areas we've seen the issues with them. Deploy automated devices to accelerate service restorations. That's something that, Eric mentioned undergrounding, and it doesn't work everywhere. The issue really is cost. It's about $1 million a mile, and then if you're a right-of-way, I've heard anywhere from 2 to 4 within the right-of-way. And as you all know, and living in this beautiful part of the state, there's a lot of rural sections and lines, hundreds of miles of lines, and very few customers. But there are some advancements in technology that we would like to take advantage of, where you can sectionalize the system. So an outage that may, impact 2,000 or 3,000 people, we can quickly, for maybe a day or longer, we can quickly go in and sectionalize it to limit the exposure to maybe a few hundred, but get the power back on to others, to the rest of those people, to really limit the impacts. And then our crews can go in and really focus on what the upgrades to get the rest of those customers on. Transformational is the distribution and transmission upgrades. That's CLCPA phase 2, and the other, essentially we need to rebuild the grid, the foundation, to be able to meet the state's goals, because it was always a dual system and was not built for this level of electrification. And then, as I mentioned, the advancing the CLCPA transmission and substation work. We do have a program I do want to touch on the capacity, and I mentioned with our tariff that I just want to spend a little time on. And without having the economic development funding we've had previously, or at least at the levels, and being our hands tied to the portfolio of projects which are included on a rate case, in order to be a little more nimble within those off periods, we have put forward something called the Customer Construction Assistance Program, which if a developer, let's say an unforeseen or emerging development comes along, and a lot of days, I don't go a week doesn't go by when I don't deal with multiple housing developers. It's housing, and the upgrades can be expensive. And as not only the way the tariff's written in black and white on paper, but also the resources we cannot have no way to share that cost with that entity. And it can be government, it can be private sector, it can be a school, it can be anything. Because of if we were to do that, we would have to take away from another part of the system. So we proposed a pot of money that will allow us to do analysis and say, you know, if Terry asked, you know, came in a development, it was $100 million. We went through the analysis and said, well, 50% of it would upgrade the grid more holistically for the whole area. Then NYSEG is going to be able to come in and pay for 50% of that. Terry's only going to have to pay for 50%. So we thought it was a creative way, and we've done a ton of analysis, unfortunately, with a lot of people we've had to say no to over the last few years to back that up.
Thanks, Terry, for offering to chip in 50%.
And then, so to the project specific to the Ithaca division, comprehensive area study, about $677 million. There's multiple of these across the state. You know, everywhere from this area, Ontario County, Rochester area, up in the Plattsburgh area as well. But what this is really a suite of projects that we have identified, and I really don't like that they call it a study because it's a lot more than a study, that depending on the funding level that we receive for all of these, we will prioritize what upgrades need to be done in this particular area. So this is a new $677 million that's proposed in this rate case specifically for the Ithaca division. But I mean, I think, you know, this is the type of thing that would, you know, to try to get as much of that $677 million at the end of the day is is the goal. And then jump to the next slide. These are projects that were in previous rate cases. The first being the Finger Lakes Area Infrastructure Reliability was another $77 million. But as I said, especially Ithaca electrification project, $34 million. You know, that's 5 substations right here in Ithaca that are being upgraded. And those are significant upgrades that, you know, customers should be a benefit from. But it's in there, and actually last night I was kind of preparing. I went through the appendix of the, you know, thousands of pages and searched it, and it was in there. So we can.
It's not in here. Okay. I'm sorry. I was just trying to find that slide.
Yeah, and I apologize. That was, we were kind of the interplay from previous rate cases to the others, and I wanted to. We can provide the updated electronic version for the committee.
All right. Thank you.
Next slide, Eric. And then finally, the clean energy implementation, $295 million, and, you know, enhanced energy efficiency. You know, our energy efficiency programs are in here: EV adoption, advanced load forecasting, grid flexibility, to support renewable energy expansion. So that's supporting, you know, EVs, managed charging, energy efficiency programs. Continued operation of energy storage projects, which we have one on front of the meter project here in Tompkins County, and then 5 others, I believe, across the state that we've been working on. Advanced load forecasting and long-term gas plans. DSIP produces long-term strategic plans for grid enhancement. That's all really about using more data and better data to better our planning, so we can, you know, be successful in our move to electrification. And then we have a electrification tariff proposal we've included. So, you know, we are working with the state. The state just released the energy plan just a few weeks ago, and, you know, we're working with them on the long-term gas plan, which outlines a future for, you know, our gas system. But, you know, so we're going to make the investments in the way that's going to, you know, how it's going to impact all customers. This was something we actually came up with the idea from seeing what some other utilities have done with undergrounding. There's particular municipalities who may not want the wires going down their main street, and they worked with the utility to take advantage of utility financing to have a separate charge on customers in that area's bill to pay for those upgrades. This would be in the case that there's communities that want to move faster on electrification than what we are proposing would give them that avenue, and they could take advantage of our financing and have a surcharge just on those particular customer bills. Another thing, and that I did not neglected to mention, it is kind of a tariff change, but under customer service is the hedging that we're allowed to do for day-night meter customers. which those were the people really impacted this winter because the market went up about 100% on the supply side. Back in 2015, we agreed to remove hedging for that class of customers. We think it's in the best interest of our customers to have some sort of protection for them, or insurance, if you will. So maybe it's not the same amount for the standard rate customers, but to soften any of those swings as much as we possibly can. But that was another, really it's the language in the tariff change that we proposed. All right. So this was, again, from the one-year filing, what the impacts, monthly customer bill impact would be. And again, we are proposing that this be a multi-year investment plan, and those impacts would hopefully be spread out over the years. So NYSEG Electric, which is based off a average residential home, and what is the agreement for all utilities across the state with the commission as to be able to communicate this information. We're looking at about a 23.6% increase, about $33.12 per month. On the gas side, 33.5, 33.57 increase per month. But again, that is just the beginning of this process. I feel pretty comfortable saying those numbers changed 24 hours after we filed by the time I held my briefing, but it's the cost of what it takes to run our business, meet the mandates we're under, and deliver for our customers, and we're here to answer any questions you all may have.
And with the 1 year, because you mentioned, I think it was slide 6, about a 1 year increase, and then a 1 year plan, and then a 5 year plan?
Correct. So
would the 1 year be in addition to this, the increase?
No, that would be this. That would
or would that be part
to put it another way? If this were just approved, this is your 1 year on May 1st, 2026. This would be the increase that would be seen, but that would only run the business for 1 year till May 1st of 2027, and we'd have to go through this whole process. The 5 year is intended to spread out all these investments that we believe are important, which the 1 year is reflective of, but over multiple years, to try to spread out any impacts, obviously with a goal less than 23.6 per year, but make the investments in a more sustainable way. So I can't, it's 5 years of data, 1 year revenue requirement, so it's not as easy as saying, let's take 23.6 and divide it by 5. It could be front-ended that, number of jobs, FTEs need to be hired in 1 year, so maybe a little higher in the first rate year and then go down to, more consistent level. But the idea would be have smaller increases per year over multiple years.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and this is just kind of a summary slide, complying with, our purposes, to put the information on the table and have the conversations exactly what we're having today. It will create, if, then that's an internal NYSEG RG&E, but it would add 100 jobs in New York State within our company, which is already about 33,000. So it would be significant jobs in the region, and with a lot of those being call center, our hubs for call centers are Binghamton and Rochester, so not out of the question that some may be in Tompkins County.
Thank you. And so we'll open it up. Thank you for the presentation and for hurrying along. I have one clarifying question, then I'll open it up for other members. So back on slide number 7, where you talked about the program drivers, have all of those drivers been approved by the state, or is that going to be?
Yeah, they have been approved by the state. I would say the call center law implementation is subject to what the outcome of which is significant, it's 540 FTEs that we would have to bring in-house, is subject to the outcome of litigation on the law, the merits of the law itself, and also what the ultimate determination of the commission is on what direction with our out-of-state vendors.
So that could change the
that could- so
cost
that- yes,
and
that
that
could-
for the
yeah.
call center.
Yeah, and that's a lot of jobs.
Okay, questions from the group? Rich?
I have lots of questions, but I won't ask them all. But slide 10, you had the storm, the trending on the storms, and that seemed really scary. I'm wondering, is that happening nationally, and do you see that continuing?
So I think, and I should explain this as well. So for both companies, it is about 200, we're asking for about $206 million in annual recovery for NYSEG RG&E. And actually, major storm allowance for NYSEG alone would be 189.7. And we brought copies of this DPS one-pager we can leave with you all. The way storm recovery works is it's not, if we only incur $100 million, we don't just get to keep that other $89.7 million for that year. We actually have to give it back. So what we want to do is avoid the situation that we are essentially taking out a loan after we pay our contractors, which we have to pay within 30 days, or pay for the hotel rooms, that builds up interest that impacts customers. So it does fluctuate. I mean, you can see in 23 it was down to 154 million, 393 in 2024. But those are the numbers, and I can check nationally, and that our counterparts at the other utilities are seeing. So.
But it seems like it was much lower 2015 through 2020.
Yeah.
It was trending much lower than it is now,
yeah.
and it seems to be ramping up.
Yeah, and that is what we've experienced. And I mean, there are, look, the inflation, has happened, effects from the pandemic has obviously impacted it. I did have some of our SMEs do some analysis on the 72-hour rule, and it was significant what we've seen just since 22 when it went into effect. But I wasn't comfortable knowing there's inflation, there's cost of everything has gone up. I wasn't comfortable saying this is just because of the 72-hour rule. But we can see what more info we can get for you on that.
Actually, I have one other question. Could I ask one? Mm-hmm. On the collection stuff, I certainly heard people complaining that there were some difficulties in getting bills out and people getting their NYSEG bills, but that seems like a separate issue from your collection stuff that seems to be connected to the pandemic. If you could talk to that.
Yeah, I mean, so what happened during the pandemic, and I mean, this is why it's a little frustrating that we didn't have AMI before the pandemic, because we were going off estimates that were pre-pandemic usage estimates, and then had to go back. And once we actually got, as I said, 40% of our meters are indoors, which happened for months after the pandemic, if not years. We actually got access to somebody and actually got an actual read. People were getting involved with catch-up bills, a year later. So it caused a ton of confusion. There is new laws that if we don't get a bill out in 3 months, 3 billing cycles, we are, that money goes. So I can assure you that that people are receiving their bills. Okay. But yeah, it just was. I do not envy our call center staff and having to explain what is already a very complicated issue, but do it over the last 12 months, was a very confusing time. But we're glad we're kind of on the other end of that, and that's why we want to be proactive in explaining exactly what is on that bill.
And what's AMI? Actual meter?
Smart meters.
Oh, AMI.
Automated meter infrastructure.
Okay, thank you.
Or advanced meter infrastructure, sorry.
Other folks?
So many questions. I know Congressman Riley has been active on trying to represent people on behalf of the New York 19. Of the rate and of the charges, what ends up going back to the parent company, or outside of New York or outside of Spain? And then is NYSEG able to make a profit? If so, what have profits looked like or losses looked like over time?
Yes.
We talk a lot about, right, cost of all of these things. Some of those you would think, gosh, we should have been thinking about aging infrastructure 10 years ago rather than the day we need to replace it. And so how are some of those conversations being had in the public?
Well, I mean, look, our financials are available online. Our balance sheet, the dividends we pay. We pay dividends to attract investments. We are a private company, a highly regulated company. As I said, transformers to toilet paper, they approve it all. Lifesavers that crews, work, with our work in a storm, it all has to be documented and reported. But what I can tell you is that as far as the parent company and money going elsewhere, is the parent company has actually invested over the last 10 years $1 billion more than we've paid out in dividends. So the parent company has been really keeping NYSEG and RG&E, it's a different number, it's about $200 million at RG&E, has really been keeping NYSEG and RG&E afloat and able to make the infrastructure improvements that we've been able to make. And I know there's a commitment, Avangrid and from our international parent, to keep doing, have this be the best system it can possibly be. So and those are just the facts. If you look at the balance sheets and look at what comes in aid and construction, so that's, really.
So Tim, maybe this would be helpful for Greg and get to the point. What's the return on equity percentage that you're looking for?
Yeah, the return on equity, currently we're at 9.2%. We have proposed 10% at all 4 companies. And so that would be an increase in revenue of $32 million on the electric side and 5.7 on the gas side.
And then I guess another question, it seems that when you overpay NYSEG, it's incredibly hard to get a check back for an overpayment, and it usually just ends up as like a credit, or it's a very complicated process to get back. Is there any thought or conversation that's happening, obviously billing errors, issues, things like that, and then it's like, oh, well, we'll just roll it forward, and it's like, well, I could really use that extra money, I mean, I've heard as much as a couple thousands, of dollars from individual residential customers. How can we improve that type of customer service or getting that money back so that, I mean, obviously you focus on collections, you charge interest, you've obviously sold off a number of those collections and it's been profitable for you. In the same turn, you're holding customer money that hasn't had a charge yet.
Yeah.
How are we getting it either back to them or giving them some incentive for holding their money? Because obviously you're making money on their money.
Well, we're not once we're giving them a credit on their monthly bill. So it really all ends up, and I mean, Lisa, I don't know if you have any, but I mean, it's something we can ask. But I mean, look, sometimes it's hard enough to make sure a customer actually receives their bill, or so I can imagine sending a check back to individual, 1.2 million customers.
Yeah.
Could be difficult. I mean, even we've had some recent, with some conversions of software, there was on some automated payment issues, and giving a $25 credit just for people's inconvenience is what, kind of our practice to pay that back. So, yeah. But let me get something more solid. But if you're somebody who's living month to month on their bills, that couple $100, $50, whatever it is, could make a difference to pay another bill.
Yeah.
Understood.
Appreciate it.
I had a question on vegetation management, and I know a lot of folks around the state have been pushing for NYSEG and RG&E to do a 5-year cycle versus a 6 for vegetation management, and especially since downed trees, especially during storms, are the main cause of outages, and we've had increasing outages over time. So I was wondering if you could address that, because a lot of folks are hoping that the investment goes into that versus, I'm just looking at my own property. Does it pay more for me to do my management up ahead versus wait for damage, and then customers are getting charged for all the recovery efforts. So we're paying either way. So just
correct.
Yeah.
And then we think if we get on that consistent cycle, I mean, before the agreement we received, and because it went longer than 11 months, we didn't get an agreement till October of 2023 for the 6-year. We had proposed the 5-year, ended up with a 6-year. I think at the end of the day, we got a cycle. So we were happy with that outcome. And yeah, we want to have a consistent maintenance of those lines going forward. Hypothetically, it should be that if you are continuously maintaining, you should be able to. It should kind of level off of what the maintenance costs are. But there's a lot of catch up, and again, sometimes customers aren't the happiest with the vegetation management that may have not. They liked that, and when the trees end up with a haircut they don't particularly like, that's another issue we have to navigate.
Yeah, and notification. I don't think there's a notification program. I mean, I just go out and somebody's cutting my trees down. But just another, that your contract out for most of the vegetation management?
We do for a significant amount, yes.
And just anecdotally, when they came and did mine, I said, go wider. I mean, my neighbors were shocked, but I was like, I'm sick and tired of having outages. I'm having to do, me and a lot of other people throughout the state, we're having to figure out how to do backup because we're tired of our losing all our food in our fridge and our sump pumps not working and all this. And I'm trying to do this elaborate battery backup system in my house. It's really hard. But one of the things when that company came, they did, I worked with them and, about if you're going to trim this, could you not trim my birch trees back this far? Or could you leave me the firewood? Because somehow that disappears sometimes, the hardwood, which is really, I think, anyway. But also, they didn't trim some trees that were above the lines that were higher because they said they didn't have the equipment to go higher. And I'm thinking, well, there's the branches hanging over,
it's
but
almost
higher.
Like a donut, right?
Right, so they did it was like a cone or an arch almost for some of the areas. And I'm thinking, well, then,
what if
those are
the
still
top
trees.
Of the donut falls?
And it's going to, So anyways, it's just some anecdotal things.
No, that does have to do with our spec and what we are, with the right of way. It's 8 feet. 10 feet is we can clear without any further permissions. So they are confined within, to a certain area.
Right.
And that 10 feet goes up.
So there, okay. So so we have some of our staff here. If you've got Katie or Terry, if you have any, did you come up to ask a question or comment?
If legislators are done with questions. Okay. I just noticed there's a large emphasis on the call centers and beefing up call centers. And I was wondering kind of what analysis went into fixing the problems that would require people to call a call center versus investing in the call center. It's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. I just wondering if you could speak to that a little bit.
Well, I would say it's the call center and our digital capabilities because we do want to try to move customers, to online, to whatever other forms besides the call center. We are, I would say, aggressively going after that, but it will take time. The number of call center staff is really indicative from that legislation that passed, so that's why it seems very significant. But we understand customers, behaviors have changed, and they even to go on a payment plan, or the payment plans that require some more information that for the minimum payment plans, which used to always be, you have to call somebody. We're trying to get ways to be able to submit that documentation and do that virtually. But you are going to always have people that want to call. So it's I know.
Has there
email,
been, I think the question was, has there been an analysis?
I'll check and see exactly, because I know our digital team, they work magic, quite frankly, on some things they've rolled out, whether, revamping our winter heating and, getting the digital capabilities. So I can check to see what is more apt, but we have seen a high uptick on things like Energy Manager, which allows people, once they have AMI, be able to track down to the hour your energy usage. But it seems that that is a want of our customers, is to have that information right in your hand on your smartphone. So, but I can check on that.
Mm-hmm.
We have rolled out a lot of capabilities on the app.
Can you get up to the?
I'm sorry. We have rolled out a lot of capabilities on the app itself. We also, that's one of the big advantages of the smart meters. A lot of times when somebody calls in an outage, we already know about it because we can tell, we get that reading back from the smart meters. We can tell what neighborhood's out. So a lot of the automation, and there was some stuff in the rate case for more automation, is going down that route. But we still have people that, today happens to be a customer service day here in Ithaca. And when we left, the people were lined up, because we still have people that want to come and speak to someone face to face. We have people that still want to talk to that person. So we have automated a lot. There is a lot you can do online. You can do almost any of it online, but there is still, the community that wants to have that real-time communication.
I guess just to clarify, what I was talking about is investments in making the bills easier to read, or fewer inaccuracies in the billing, or increased vegetative management. Those kind of hard investments versus the call center.
So the software upgrade that we mentioned, that will upgrade I believe it's been over a decade that's been upgraded. That'll allow for various inputs. It will allow us to do more regular catch-up bills and reviews of people who are on budget billing. I think budget billing, I've been on budget billing. I'm in Albany, so I'm National Grid my entire adult life. I think it's the greatest thing in the world, because I know I'm going to pay $200 to $240 a month no matter what, and quite frankly, it's less than my Spectrum bill. But our ability to review and see more frequent adjustments to people's bills is limited. So things like that, which I know drives people crazy when they get this true up, or especially after this winter, people were getting significant true ups. But the combination of those the goal is to improve things for our customers.
Anybody else? Thanks for, Haley, did you have anything you wanted to ask while you're here?
Sure, I do have a comment and a question. So when reviewing the case, I was a little disappointed to see not many innovative or new electrification measurements kind of in place. I did notice the tariff, which I think is my understanding that kind of puts the onus on the municipalities to kind of move, they're basically the ones who would be charging that tax. Is that correct?
They would authorize an additional surcharge on customers in that localities area.
Okay, and then they're more free to decide what investments they would be making? It would, say we wanted to do I don't know.
Well, I think we would work, we have done a lot of work with the city of Ithaca on the Green New Deal proposal, and the 33 million that I was referenced earlier is part of a larger 55 million that are all substations upgrades that would need to be done. So
is the idea that it would be pre-prescribed projects, or would it be an ongoing conversation about what those could be, or I guess what's the thinking?
I think we would present a suite of what is in our, what is in our work, on our workbench to solve the issues that a particular community is facing. And sometimes it's not the it's a trip saver that, you know, the tree limb comes down and, you know, you get 3 little flicks but the lights stay on. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing, which is a little more cost effective than just going all the way through and undergrounding, right? So I think we would work with whatever municipality to.
At what level are you talking about? Are you talking about just villages, cities, towns, or is it including counties, for instance?
I don't think there's any limitation,
So this is a proposed tariff that could be placed on municipalities? I guess I don't understand.
I'm assuming it would be placed on the utility bills of customers in the municipality, right? So it would, it would still be on the NYSEG bill.
And the process would start with the municipality to kind of kick off the conversation of, you know, we want to move towards electrification in quicker than, I'm just making up numbers, 15 years. We would then probably go through a planning process to identify what upgrades are going to be there and give you a proposal how much that is going to cost. Let's say it's $100 million. And then you could finance that over a number of years, be spread across the customer base in that community to undergo those efforts. And there would be a charge that shows up monthly on those customers' bills. So there's absolutely no mandate. It is literally just an option.
Katie?
Will that tariff be an option for the natural gas system upgrades as well?
I do not believe it includes anything for natural gas.
Seems like
But
seems like an oversight to me. You have 2 separate systems, both with needs.
Fair point.
Something we could advocate for in the rate case. And so I don't really have a comment or question, but just for the committee, I mean, so, you know, you've heard the presentation from NYSEG today. You know, our intention was to make sure that you were informed about the rate case and then to come back, as I said, next month to talk a little bit about what you'd like us to advocate for on behalf of the residents that you represent. So if it's, you know, vegetation management, if it's advocating for the tariff, the electrification tariff to also be, you know, be put onto natural gas, you know, those are the types of things that we could advocate for on behalf. So please keep in mind, you know, look at what they presented. If you have questions, I'm sure we can pass it on to them and they can provide us some answers. But, you know, we'll be coming back next time asking you, you know, what is it that you want us to advocate for? Is it trying to get the bills as low as it possible? Is it to try and push, you know, clean energy? Is it, you know, you mentioned the CAS, the community area study, and trying to get as much money for, you know, this area of the division as possible to make sure that those upgrades can happen in Trumansburg and other parts of the county. So, you know, please be mindful of that when we come back, that we're looking for you to direct us in this. You know, I don't want, you know, Haley and I to be making that decision of what we're advocating for.
And for members here who are not able to come if you're not able to come for next month, maybe send an email to Haley, Terry, and I.
Yeah, I think, you know, we haven't discussed this in great depth. I think, you know, we'll come prepared a little bit with some suggestions and things that we've heard and possibilities. There are some things related to county operations that, you know, I think would be worth talking about a little bit and advocating for. So we'll come with some prepared ones. But if, you know, if there are things specific or more general, that would be helpful, and either to send them to us directly and we can bring them up as part of it, or to send them to you, Annie, either way.
Okay, great. And so we'll encourage other legislators to come too. So I wanted to thank Eric, Tim, Lisa for coming today. This has been really helpful, so I appreciate it.
No, and thank you, and we're happy if there's any one of these areas, as you guys are doing your due diligence, you'd like us to bring, you know, SMEs from customer service, electric, you know, planning, happy to do so. And truthfully, thank you for being part of the process. I think it's important you all will have a seat at the table. This was an attempt to boil down thousands of pages of data into, I think, 14 without the introductory slides, but thank you, because you know, there's a lot of, as Eric said, a lot of politics around these things, and we're glad you all are taking the time to be part of that process.
Thank you. And if members don't mind, we'll skip any member reports and we'll just go right to adjournment. Does that sound good? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you for a very robust discussion on a number of topics today.
Thank you, Annie.